Okay, section 3.5, linear equations and problem solving. So the skill you're going to be working on tonight will be your ability to read a word problem, a problem in context, and develop a model that represents the problem. And we kind of did this before, but the types of models you'll be coming up with tonight are going to be a little bit more complex. They're definitely going to be multi-step equations that you are going to be writing that represents problems. And we're just going to go over two problems, so two word problems kind of in depth. The first problem is going to be a comparison between gym memberships. Okay, so at some point in your life, you're probably going to become a member of a gym. Maybe you are already with your family or something. And, you know, gym memberships are different depending on where you go. And the numbers I'm using here are not actual numbers. But the situation that we're going to see here is very similar to the decision that you would have to make in kind of comparing maybe what has the better value. So we'll do the YMCA versus Gold's Gym. Okay, so you do need pencil and paper. Make sure you have that right now. You're going to be writing quite a bit. It says you want to join a gym, but you're not sure which has the better deal. So Gold's Gym offers a membership for $265 down and $40 per month. So basically with Gold's Gym, you'd pay $40 per month, but when you join, there's a one-time down payment. And so you'd pay $265 just for a one-time fee, and then from there on out, it's just $40 per month. So that's Gold's Gym. It says the YMCA offers a membership for $400 down and $25 per month. And what I want you to think about right now is, you know, which one of those sounds better to you? Which one do you think has the better value? And usually the response I would get would be something like, well, that depends. Depends on what? Well, it depends on how long you're going to be a member. You know, the YMCA at $25 per month, that's looking really good, but you're paying more up front. So if you think you're going to be at the YMCA for 3, 4, 5 years, yeah, that's probably a better deal to join the YMCA. Okay, $265 down for Gold's Gym is a lot cheaper. So even though it's $40 per month, it's a little bit more expensive. You know, if you're only going to be joining for like a month or two, Gold's Gym looks like it would be probably the better way to go. So what we're kind of trying to do is we're trying to figure out, well, where is that tipping point? You know, at what point does one become better than the other? How many months would you have to go before that tipping point occurs? So here's what we're going to imagine. If you joined the YMCA, how many months would you have to go until your membership actually becomes cheaper than it would be had you gone to Gold's Gym? Okay, so that is the question. And first thing we want to do here is we want to come up with an equation that's going to represent the situation. Okay, so just by reading all of this, what do you think our variable is going to be? In other words, what is it that we're out to kind of, you know, find or figure out? And we should always write a variable statement. It's going to allow us to, you know, understand what our answer is if we get lost in the mathematics for a little bit. So I usually write something like this, like a let x equal. What are we going to let x equal? What is our variable going to represent? And for this problem, the thing we're kind of interested in is the number of what? What do you think? Hopefully you said months. Number of months of going to the gym. I mean, we know how much it costs per month. We know how much we have to put down in each situation. But what we don't know is, well, how long are we going to be using this membership? How many months are we going to be going? So that's the first thing you have to do is figure out that variable. And then we want to write an expression for each gym. So maybe we can begin with Gold's Gym. We will have a Gold's Gym section and a YMCA section. Okay, and we want to come up with an expression that represents each one. So let's go to Gold's Gym. It says $265 down and $40 per month. Well, how would you write that mathematically? Why don't you go ahead and try that on your own? How would you represent $265 down and $40 per month? Go ahead and write that on your paper. Maybe hit pause if you need to. Well, the $265 down is just going to be $265. It's positive money. Okay, and then to that, we're going to add $40 each month times the number of months you end up going. So that would be 265 plus 40x. Okay. We're going to do the same thing with the YMCA. So how do you think you would write $400 down and $25 per month? It's going to look very similar. So maybe something like this, 400 plus 25 times the number of months. And those are the expressions for each gem. Now what do you think we do with those? Well, we're going to create an equation. Remember how I said we were going to kind of look at where does that tipping point occur when the value is actually equal for the YMCA and Gold's Gym. We all know that Gold's Gym is going to start out cheaper. In the long run, the YMCA will end up being the better value, but at what point does that seesaw kind of balance out? And that's why we put an equal sign in here. We want to know, well, at what point in time do these two values equal each other? That's going to tell us the number of months for when things kind of balance out. Okay, so you have this equation, and that's typically the hardest part, is coming up with the equation. So the 265 plus 40x, that represents Gold's Gym. 400 plus 25x represents the YMCA. What do you think you're going to do now? Well, you're going to solve this thing, and you're going to get some value for x. This is an equation with variables on both sides. We're going to solve it the way that you've already practiced. So begin by collecting variables. Probably the best first step, in my opinion, would be to take away 25x. And you know what, before I go any further, I want you to kind of do this on your own. So go ahead and hit pause now. Go ahead and figure out how much x equals. All right, hopefully you did that on your own. I'm going to take away 25x from both sides. Once you do this, you'll be left with 265 plus 15x equals 400. And the math part here should be easy. In other words, we've already practiced how to do this. This should be automatic. Got a basic two-step equation. We're taking away the loaner. I'm going to do that to both sides, and you end up with 15x equaling 135. Now you got a basic one-step equation. Divide both sides by 15. And you get x equals 9, I believe. What does that mean? Okay, so you got x equals 9. Well, what does that x represent? That's why it's always good to have the statement at the very beginning. Remember, x represents the number of months. So you're going to go to the gym for 9 months, and that's the point at which the YMCA will cost the same amount as going to Gold's Gym. And you could test that if you wanted to. If you wanted to plug in a 9 here, okay, whatever it spits out will be the same as if you plugged in a 9 here. Both sides will be equal. Both sides are in balance. But I do want to caution you that 9 is not the answer to this question. You always want to read the question to make sure you're actually answering what you started out to find. So we know that we're going to make a decision to join the YMCA. The question was, how many months until your membership is actually cheaper? Okay, so 9 is the number of months it takes for the membership value to be the same. So how much more would you have to go to the YMCA for it to be cheaper? Well, you'd have to tip the scales. So you'd have to go 1 more month. So you're going to add a month to that 9, and 10 months would actually be the correct answer here. So sometimes what you mathematically get will help you arrive at your answer, but you have to use common sense to maybe answer the question being asked of you. Okay, so to sum up, always set that variable first. Go ahead and create your equation, and you'll do that by creating an expression for each side, and then just solve your equation and interpret your answer. All right, good job. Let's try another one. This time I'm going to have you maybe do a little bit more of this on your own. And I will caution you that this one is a little bit trickier. Okay, so Best Buy offers you 2 payment plans for the flat screen TV you are purchasing. Okay, Plan A requires $250 down and equal payments for 7 months. Plan B requires $100 down, but payments that are $10 more than in Plan A, and you're going to pay for 9 months. Okay, so this problem is a little bit different than the one before. Here we actually know the number of months. In Plan A, you're going to be spending money for you're going to make payments for 7 months. In Plan B, you're going to make payments for 9 months. So we know the months, we know the down payments. Our variable will have to end up being the thing that we do not know. Okay, so I'm going to guide you through this with some questions, but I am going to have you do it on your own. Let's come up with the variable first, though. So we want to write a let x equals statement. Always a good idea. So for this problem, what do you think x would equal? It's not as clear, all right? What we don't know is the amount of monthly payment. And we don't know that for Plan A, or we don't know that for Plan B. We do know that that monthly payment is going to be different for each one, so we need to specify. Do you think x equals the amount that we're going to spend in Plan A per month, or do you think x should equal the amount we're going to spend in Plan B per month? And the way to figure that out is which one depends on the other. In other words, do we need to know Plan A first to figure out Plan B, or do we need to know Plan B first to figure out Plan A? The key for me is right here. Plan B is going to be $10 more per month than in Plan A. That kind of implies that we need to know Plan A first. So for my variable, I'm going to say x equals the amount, and you want to write this down on your paper. The amount of monthly payment in Plan A. That's very specific, okay? X is going to equal the amount of monthly payment in Plan A. So what I want you to do right now is begin the process. Go ahead and reread this if you need to. Write an expression for Plan A, number 1, and number 2, write an expression for Plan B, and then use those to write the equation for this problem. Okay, go ahead and do that on your own. Hit pause now, and then we'll reconvene to see if we come up with the same stuff. Okay, let's see how you did. Typically, coming up with an expression for Plan A is much easier than Plan B. So let's begin with Plan A. Plan A requires $250 down and equal payments for 7 months. So hopefully you wrote $250 plus 7 months times X, and remember X stands for the monthly payment for Plan A, so that makes sense. You know, you could also have that as 7X plus 250. Remember, addition is commutative. All right, and number 2, the expression for Plan B, I'll give you a hint here if you want to stop and change. You're going to have to use parentheses to write your expression for Plan B. Plan B is much more complicated, so let's go back and pay attention to the language. It says Plan B requires $100 down. So we'll begin with $100 down. The payments are $10 more than in Plan A, and we're going to do that for 9 months. Okay? So I can definitely tell that 9 is my multiplier, but what is 9 multiplying? Well, whatever it's multiplying is going to be $10 more than in Plan A. And remember, Plan A is X. So we're going to take whatever we paid for in Plan A per month, and we're going to add $10 to it. And notice I'm putting that in parentheses. Why am I putting that in parentheses? Well, I'm going to have to multiply that by 9. Okay? If I don't have the parentheses there, it's going to change the meaning. If I were to take away the parentheses, it just looks like that 9 is multiplying the x. Well, that 10 is coming along for the ride every single month. It's $10 more per month. And so we would have to add that 10 to the x first and then multiply it by 9. So that's why I have those guys protected in parentheses. Okay, so $100 plus whatever plan A is, right, plus 10. So plan A plus 10, whatever that value is, then we'd multiply it by the 9 for the 9 months. So that is your expression for plan B. All right, think about that until you got it, and then we'll move on. Use these to write an equation for the whole problem. Well, the whole problem is we're going to set the cost of the TV in plan A. So remember, that's $250 plus 7x. Okay, that's actually the cost of the TV in plan A. We're going to set that equal to the cost of the TV in plan B. Why are we allowed to do that? Well, the cost of the TV is the same in both plans. We don't know how much the TV costs, but I do know that we're going to spend the same amount of money in plan A as we are in plan B. The only thing that's different here is time. Plan A is going to happen in 7 months, and plan B is going to happen over 9 months. And the other thing that's different is how much we're paying per month. In plan A, it's X. In plan B, it's X plus 10. But the cost of the TV will actually be the same. So that's why we can do an equations with variables on both sides. This cost here will be equal to this cost here. We'll just have to work backwards to figure out what that X stands for. Remember, X is the amount of monthly payment in plan A. Okay, so second part, and I'm going to let you do this on your own as well. Here we have our equation as we've written it down. Now you're actually going to solve this, and then I want you to answer the questions below. How much are payments for plan A? How much are payments for plan B? And then how much does the TV cost? You should be able to use all that information to actually determine how much we're paying for this TV, even though it never mentioned that in the problem itself. Okay, so go ahead and get to work on that, and don't unpause until you have answers for all this. So go ahead and hit pause now. Okay, the first question, how much are payments for plan A? And remember, the payment amount for plan A is represented by the X. So if we solve for X, we are going to figure out how much those payments are. Okay, let's go ahead and begin by distributing. We have some distribution to do. So on the left-hand side, I'm just going to be recopying. It looks like 250 plus 7x equals 100. But I do need to distribute that 9. So positive 9 times positive x gives me positive 9x. And then I also have to distribute the positive 9 to the positive 10. Positive 9 times positive 10 is positive 90. Also notice after we've distributed, we are going to have some like terms to combine. So our second step will be combining the 100 with the 90 because they are like terms on the same side. So let's go ahead and do that now. So once again, 250 plus 7x equals, and then 100 plus 90 will be 190 plus 9x. Now my equation has variables on both sides in sort of that basic framework where we have a loner couple, loner couple. So we're just going to follow those steps that we learned earlier for solving these. You want to begin by collecting variables. So would it make more sense to subtract 7x or subtract 9x? Probably going to stay in positive land. So let's take away 7x from both sides. Okay, when we do that, we end up with 250 on the left being equal to 190 plus 2x on the right. And that's a basic two-step equation. We're going to get rid of our loner. So taking away 190 from both sides. And we're left with 60 equals 2x basic one-step equation, divide by 2, and we come up with 30 equals x. Maybe I should make that look a little bit nicer. So what does that mean? Well, remember x was the amount of payment in Plan A, so that's $30. It's a reasonable answer. Okay, $30 a month for Plan A. Now, how do we figure out how much payments are for Plan B? Well, that one goes back to language. Okay, for Plan B, remember, it said payments are $10 more than in Plan A. So we're just going to add that 10. So if Plan A is 30, how much is Plan B? Well, it's 40. That's simple mental addition. Not much work to show there. Okay, X is still the same on both sides, but in Plan B, you're actually paying $40 per month. Now they want to know how much the TV costs. What would we do to figure that out? Well, since we know what X is, we could go back and plug in X on either side. Remember, this represented the cost of the TV in Plan A, and this side represented the cost of the TV in Plan B, and the cost is going to be the same no matter what. So you can plug in that 30 on either side. It should spit out the same answer. I would probably plug it in over here because this side looks a little bit less complicated. So let's plug in 30 for X, and we'll kind of work backwards to see what we get. 250 plus 7 times 30 instead of X. That's all you're doing to figure out how much the TV costs. So that's 250 plus 210, and it looks like $460. And probably what I'm going to do before I write that in the answer blank is I will come back up here and maybe do this side mentally. X is 30, 30 plus 10 is 40, 9 times 40 is 360, and then I add 100 to that, I also get 460, which I should get that on both sides. So that's kind of a good way to check to make sure I've done it right. So the TV costs $460. Okay, hopefully you did well on that by yourself. If not, you can always go back and re-practice both of these problems from scratch if you need to until you have it down. And we're definitely going to do a lot more practice on this stuff with the assignment. It's definitely going to be on your test, so make sure that you work on being able to read a situation, create that equation that represents the whole entire situation, and then solve for X and know what you're solving for and kind of use your answer to figure out the questions at hand. All right, good job. See you tomorrow.